This video is sponsored by PCBWay. More about them at the end of the video. After a fantastic run in 2023, Cheesecake the 1-pound combat robot was ranked number 12 in the nation, just above Impulse, who Cheesecake fought once before.
Oh, and another big hit, and that's Impulse's left tire!
But still way behind the number 1 ranked Mud Skipper, who Cheesecake also fought once before.
Mud Skipper. Yeah. Oh!
Despite that spectacular loss, Cheesecake was still invited to the Robot Combat League National Championship in San Jose, California. But not all of the top-ranked robots could make the trip, and that included Mud Skipper, so hopefully Cheesecake won't get exploded again. And Cheesecake wasn't the only East Coast combat robot there. He was joined by a whole bunch of other G-Scroll robots, including Shinkicker, Lobot, and a new ultra-wide version of Nomad.
We really try to focus on getting as wide as possible.
We also got to see a lot of plastic antweight robots, including Cheesecake's brother-in-cheese, Blocko Cheese. These 3D printed robots are a great way to get into the sport if you don't want to spend a lot of money, and they're still really fun to watch. With all of his East Coast friends by his side, Cheesecake was feeling good, and it was time for the tournament to begin. Cheesecake was still his same old self, but the tournament had some new features. The arena wasn't a simple wood-floored box like Cheesecake was used to. Instead, it was a hexagonal box with a steel floor. The shape was nice because it didn't have any tight corners to get bullied into, but the steel floor was probably going to be slippery. In addition to the different arena, there was also a different scoring system. It's still a double elimination tournament, and if both robots are still driving at the end of the fight, the winner is still declared by a panel of 3 judges who score based on damage, control, and aggression. But, instead of the available points being 6, 6, and 5, they were 5, 3, and 3, like on the BattleBots TV show. This meant that damage was much more important, which should give Cheesecake a good chance against control bots who tend to bully Cheesecake around the box. Cheesecake got a bye in the first round, so my first fight was against Tiramisu, a robot that was partially inspired by Cheesecake himself. Tiramisu is a fully invertible horizontal spinner with TPU side armor and well-protected wheels, but his weapon is belt-driven instead of directly driven like Cheesecake. It's time for the mirror match. Let's see whose horizontal hits harder. The steel floor is very slippery. Ooh, my weapon does not sound right. My weapon sounds like it's losing power, so I throttled it down to half speed. One unstick later.
3, 2, 1, let's fight!
Oh, I am losing power. Darn it, what the heck happened? How did Cheesecake lose so much power so quickly? Well, let's take this one step at a time. In one of our first hits, I actually destroyed Tiramisu's pulley and removed his weapon belt, so he did not have a weapon for most of the fight. Unfortunately, I didn't notice this, so I kept hitting him as hard as I can.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
I did mangle his armor pretty well, but I wasn't able to get to his wheels. Eventually, the collet which holds my weapons started to pull apart, rubbing against my motor guard and stealing energy from my battery. As a result, Cheesecake ran out of power, and Tiramisu got the knockout. Remember in my last video when I said, Cheesecake kind of feels complete, you know? Well, I'm eating those words now. When Cheesecake delivers hits upside down, the weapon seems to pull the collet apart, and I have seen this happen to a lesser extent in previous fights, so this is something I will need to improve. Now fighting in the losers bracket, my next opponent was Wedge number 2. So, what happened to Wedge number 1? Well, apparently, this was supposed to be a multi-bot where each robot weighs just half a pound, but the two of them together were accidentally overweight, so the other driver had no choice but to fight with only Wedge number 2. Looks like it's time to break out the sweet tooth and hopefully not get bullied around the box. He's so short, I can't hit his wedge. Alright, he is still Cheesecake, eater of wheels. This almost didn't work out so well. Wedge number 2 was so short that my strategy with the sweet tooth didn't work. I got the sweet tooth under him, but my weapon barely made contact with his wedge, so I couldn't really hit him or flip him or do much of anything. After I realized this, I had no choice but to go for his wheels, and fortunately I was able to get to one of them. My next opponent was Abyss, a gigantic two-wheel drive vertical spinner. Abyss's previous fight was a win against Lobot, who he threw around the arena before ripping out his battery, so I knew this was going to be tough. But I did notice that Abyss could struggle to turn, like all big vertical spinners, so maybe I could outmaneuver him if I could be patient. But just to be safe, I switched to my big chunky weapon in case our weapons collided. Cheesecake be nimble, Cheesecake be swift. Lost part of my frame. Okay, that was an amazing fight. I accidentally went weapon to weapon near the start, and I did lose a piece of my frame, but I took a deep breath, I reset, and then I successfully disoriented him enough to make him flip over. Eventually, his weapon broke because the screws holding his motor fell out, and his belt came off as a result. I also took out one of his uprights, so that probably helped me outdrive him. I also noticed after the fight that his weapon got slightly bent out of plane, while mine stayed flat. So that's a sign that I was winning those weapon-to-weapon exchanges. My next fight was against Free Throw, a super wide control bot, kind of like Smee from the BattleBots TV show. Smee didn't do very well on the show, but similar designs have been surprisingly effective in the lower weight classes. There is no limit on a robot's size, so Free Throw is a legitimate contender. So I need to think of a legitimate strategy.
It's a legitimate strategy!
I knew that I needed to get to his sides or his back, but there was no way I'd be able to get around him, so I decided that my best bet was to go over him and then hit him from behind. Let's see if it works. Got a fork. Oh, so close. That's a good hit. Yeah, take that. This is really frustrating.
I am, stuck.
Then get unstuck.
Oh, the suspense is killing me. Supreme Ruler and Duct Tape Spartan. Supreme Ruler and Duct Tape Spartan. I'd like the two of you at the arena at 11 o'clock. Followed by Monster X and Kuroko Heritage. Fratalis Heritage.
5, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Because the time ran out, this intense fight went to a judge's decision, and by unanimous vote, the winner was Free Throw by 1 point. Cheesecake got 4 of the 5 points for damage, 1 of the 3 points for aggression, and 0 of the 3 points for control. I knew that Free Throw would take most of the points for aggression and control, but I was disappointed that Cheesecake didn't get all the points for damage. Unfortunately, this is understandable. I wasn't able to do any real functional damage against free throw, so the judges struggled to award full damage points to Cheesecake, which was frustrating, but still understandable. That being said, my strategy almost worked. I absolutely did ramp over free throw and get some good hits on his back, but unfortunately, none of them were enough to cause any major damage. Maybe if I'd had a little more traction on the floor, I might have been able to get some bigger hits. But hey, you can't win them all. With this final fight, Cheesecake was knocked out of the tournament, with a record of 2-2 and a tournament finish of 9th place.
I was awarded 9th place.
Honestly, I was pretty disappointed. I really thought I would do better than this. That being said, it's becoming clear that Cheesecake was specifically designed for the East Coast, where we have wooden floors and a familiar entourage of robots. Out west, it's much more common to have steel floors and a different group of builders, so it looks like Cheesecake might just have a bit of culture shock to overcome in the future. And as it turns out, so do his friends. By the time Cheesecake was knocked out, all of the other G-Scroll Antweights were also knocked out, so it looks like we're going to have to regroup and figure out how to come back stronger next year. We're not really a team or anything, but we all want to do better, even if there's a chance we have to go through each other. However, I was happy to learn that Cheesecake's doppelganger, Tiramisu, went on to win 2nd place. If Cheesecake can't get a podium finish, at least his newfound spiritual brother can, so that's pretty cool. And hey, this means I actually have time for grudge matches. These are voluntary fights people do for fun if there's time, so let's get into it. My first grudge match was against Vector. Vector is a powerful egg-beater drum, heavily inspired by Riptide the BattleBot, and looking very dangerous even at just 1 pound. Now, the strategic move would have been to use my chunky weapon, but I wanted to see how well my regular weapon performed, and if anything would break if I went weapon to weapon. So let's go! Cheesecake is really not driving well now. Oh, Cheesecake is a bouncy boy right now. I'm pretty sure my weapon is the only thing keeping me mobile right now. Vector is still driving very well despite missing a wheel. 2 wheels. Oh man, my battery ran out again. What's going on here? Oh. That's another destroyed weapon collet, and my weapon actually started digging into my chassis when it got loose, so I guess that's where all my battery power went. Cheesecake is hitting way harder than he used to, so it looks like this collet is now the weak link. Despite this, I did manage to rip off 2 of Vector's wheels, and his wedge, and to barely disable his weapon. But ultimately, if you can't drive, you can't win, so Cheesecake lost again. My next grudge match was against Neutrino, a big vertical spinner who hadn't actually fought a big horizontal yet, and they wanted to see if their robot could take a big sideways hit. Let's find out together. Well, I think we found the answer. Whoops, I didn't mean to eat his wheel, but Cheesecake was hungry and couldn't resist. I think they said the weapon was mild steel, which would make sense of this damage. Typically you do want to use something harder like AR-500 steel, but there is no shame in using what you have and going from there. I do hope I get to see Neutrino again. My next grudge match was against Wedge number 2 and Iron Wedge. The 2 of them together were technically overweight, but it doesn't matter, we just wanted to see what happens. I also decided to not use the sweet tooth, again, just to see what happens, so let's get it going. We did forget to start a timer though, so this clock starts at 2 minutes and 40 seconds. I'll try spinning. That's a good trick. The floor is ice, and Iron Wedge is hard to get a bite on. Wedge number 2 wanted a little tap to see if he could get going again, but it didn't work. The rest of the fight was just me slipping around the arena, struggling to get a bite on Iron Wedge, and Iron Wedge flopping around with only one wheel, so we're gonna fast forward through the rest of this fight. Well, the good news is, I didn't need the sweet tooth. With a few good hits and an unfortunate high centering of Iron Wedge, Cheesecake was able to take out both robots at the same time. The bad news is that I still ran out of power. I'm pretty sure that hitting the walls over and over again is a big drain on my battery, but also, my weapon bushing came loose and nearly fell off. That'll also do it. I'm a dummy for not securing it better. My final grudge match was against Deatharang, a plastic antweight who really wanted to see what Cheesecake could do to him. Deatharang is no pushover though. He's a non-wheeled robot that uses two slightly unbalanced spinners to jiggle himself in the right direction, and he hits really hard, so I was very curious to fight him. We had to use a different arena because the main one was being disassembled, and I knew that my weapon could get stuck in the plastic kick plates, but beggars can't be choosers, so let's go. I think the slippery floor is making it hard to get a good bite. Well, it's hard to say who won, but Cheesecake did get some pretty good hits, including this one which clipped one of Deatharang's weapon motors. The smooth floor made it tricky to do anything more, but Deatharang is also just a really sturdy robot, and really fun to watch. In fact, earlier in the day, I got to watch him fight one of my plastic friends, the Captain, a plastic version of Nomad, and the eventual second place winner in the plastic antweight bracket. So, just for fun, here's how that fight went.
3, 2, 1, fight! Both robots spinning off. Axolotl Deatharang sent flying by the Captain. The Captain sent flying by Deatharang. The Captain trying to come flying. Deatharang trying to get under control, and Deatharang getting under control, but sent flying by the Captain. An attack from above, tearing out part of the foam wheel from the Captain. The Captain still spinning though. The Captain delivering vicious attacks on Deatharang. Deatharang lining up, and and another big hit by the Captain, sending Deatharang flying into the roof of the arena. Pop after pop by Captain on Deatharang. The Deatharang being bounced around the arena by the Captain. The Captain staying brutally on Deatharang, getting Deatharang up into that corner, but Deatharang bouncing out, getting bounced all around the arena. Deatharang lining up and being chased around the arena by the Captain. The Captain lining up on Deatharang and sending Deatharang flying into the ceiling. Deatharang spending more time in the air than on the ground in this fight. All right, Deatharang up in the air, and we're starting to see one of the sides on Deatharang is broken, and that weapon is no longer fully functional. The captain delivering massive damage to the underside of Deatharang. The Deatharang bouncing, and we have taken a tire. And we have taken a tire off of the captain. All right, so both robots showing signs of wear. All right, Deatharang starting to come apart. The captain starting to come apart. We'll see which robot can push through the accumulated damage in this match. The captain not slowing down, shoving the Deatharang into the corner as Deatharang goes unstable as we come down to 1 minute left in this match. All right, Deatharang continuing to work despite one of its sides completely split, and Deatharang flipped back over. That tire from Captain bouncing off the ceiling. Deatharang bullied into the corner by the Captain. Deatharang bouncing off the ceiling with 40 seconds remaining. The Captain trying to keep bullying. Deatharang needs to deliver some serious punishment here as the Captain pushes it around the arena. Both robots still working. And a big hit delivered by the Captain, shoving Deatharang's weapons into the corner. Deatharang slammed into the ceiling by the Captain. Somehow, both weapons appear to be out on Deatharang. We've got a pin for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, backing off. And we're gonna count out Deatharang. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. All right, Deatharang is not counted out, so this will go to a judge's decision.
My final fight of the day was not actually with Cheesecake. Some of my East Coast friends offered to let me and my brother drive 2 of their plastic ant weights in a grudge match. I got to drive Blocko Cheese, and my brother got to drive Bottomfeeder, a very cool Thagomizer-style robot with a wedge on the front and a spinner on its tail. This was both of our first times fighting plastic ants, so let's see if Bottomfeeder can cut the cheese.
We're gonna start this match in 3, 2, 1, fight robots, fight!
There goes a chunk of my weapon. Well, that was cool. That's a good chunk of my weapon I lost, but that's also a good break in Bottomfeeder's frame. The plastic ants do tend to explode a little, but it's okay because they're a lot easier to repair and replace. Even so, it was very kind of my friends to let me and my brother destroy their robots. And that was the tournament. Like I said, not the finish I was expecting for Cheesecake, but it was still very cool to meet new people, say hi to a lot of fans, and even meet some of the builders from the BattleBots TV show. This tournament really showcased the limits of what I can make at home by myself, specifically my unique weapon collet which kept breaking. Fortunately, PCBWay doesn't just make printed circuit boards. They offer 3D printing services well beyond anything I could do, sheet metal cutting and bending, and most importantly for me right now, machining services with instant budgetary quoting. To improve my weapon collet, I think my best path forward is to design a new version which can be machined out of one solid piece of plastic, then upload a step file of it to PCBWay to see if it's physically manufacturable and financially viable. PCBWay has a surprisingly wide range of materials to choose from, including some softer plastics that should work for my application, and they provide many different options for surface finish and tolerances to ensure that my part will look and fit as I intended it. Check out PCBWay for your own projects, and stay tuned for more of mine.